The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series on the go to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is HTML5 for Web and Mobile. Our guest speaker today is Ramdani Sheikh, who is a member of technical staff working with mobility COE at Nest Technologies. Ramdani has spent over 7 years in user experience engineering and development of end-to-end mobile and web solutions for enterprises. Worked on mobile application development on Single, BlackBerry, Android, and cross platforms. Primary responsibility includes supporting RFPs, creating POCs, and solutions for prospective customers, and design and development of mobile apps. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Samdani.
Thank you, Anuradha. Hi everyone, this is Samdani here. As Anuradha introduced, I am working for Nest Technologies as member of technical staff, and today we are going to discuss about HTML5 in the areas of web and mobile. So my core expertise would come from the mobile side, so I'd stress more on the mobile, available technologies, tools for the mobile using HTML5. So I would start with a basic introduction for HTML5 and going to the agenda. So I would start with what is HTML5 in basic terms, and then the advantages of HTML5, and then going to the business approach, how the a business analyst or a project manager or an architect can approach to choose HTML5 for their applications. So coming to HTML5 definition, as we all know, HTML5 is a standard for HTML, and this is the latest standard that has been released and governed by W3C, and this is a markup language. This is not a scripting language. This is a markup language which is used for developing UI content for web and mobile applications, for that matter any device. And the basic strength of HTML5 is to deliver rich content, basically the media content like music and movies or graphics, and all these are like without providing any additional plugins. You can achieve this with the HTML5 with the basic tags or classes that have been given in HTML5. Those are like canvas for graphics, and audio and video are available in HTML5. We can use those tags and create rich content without using any additional plugins. And as we all know, HTML is cross-platform, and this runs on any platform which supports HTML5. Basic HTML5 should have been integrated on the browser. So it works on PC, it works on a smartphone, it works on a smart TV. So the next slide presents the complete detailed list of supported devices, and I will just go through the basic advantage why we use the HTML5. So HTML5 is basically drives that write once and run any platform. So it runs on any platform with a single program. So you can write once and it runs anywhere. So these are the devices that are supported to run HTML5, and it's once we have the HTML5 compatibility from the browsers, so it works on a PC, Mac, or Linux, and iPhone, iPad. It's an endless list actually. So to continue with the HTML, what is HTML5? Basically, World Wide Web Consortium. They are the consortium who made recommendations and who suggest the releases for HTML5. They have list down some recommendations for HTML5. So these are like HTML and CSS. What is the use of HTML and CSS in respect to the UI development for web and mobile? So this is basically HTML and CSS will define the structure of the UI that you want to show it on the screen or the web page. And the backend logic is used and written by scripting languages like JavaScript and Ajax. And coming to the UI components, like we have graphics, which defines the picture formats or the encoding coding algorithms for the pictures. All are integrated in the graphics module. Then the audio and video, it defines how the audio and video content can be handled without any need for plugins. So there is a audio or video plugin tag introduced in HTML5, which we can just write a tag audio and you can give the file name. It will start playing the audio. So you can give the controls into that tags. And then the accessibility part. So basically the accessibility, like how the web pages can be accessed. So this is basically driven by accessibility here without any issues from browser to browser. So this is handled by the WebKit of the browser to allow the accessibility for different people or different devices. And then the mobile web. So this will define the standards for accessing the web content through the mobile devices. So this is basically using the websites onto your devices. So it's not an application, it's just the modified version of the website basically. This is the strongest advantage of the HTML5, responsive design. So there are many frameworks available which are open source. Using HTML5 they have written, and it works on any device. It can be a tablet, it can be a smartphone, or it can be a desktop. So once you have the HTML5 support integrated to the browser, you can use those frameworks, or you can write your own framework to create a responsive design for your application. Let's say you want to create a website. Instead of writing an application for smartphone and creating a different layout for tablet, you can use the same controls available for desktop HTML5. You can create responsive designs and create the layouts for smartphone as well as tablets to modify those websites. Let's move on. Yeah, this is where we are going through current statistics for HTML5. So this is the 77% compatibility is there in the across the browsers for basic HTML5. For advanced HTML5 like the graphics or the audio video content that I have mentioned, it's just the 60% compatibility. The lag here is with the device acceleration or the graphical changes for the devices, which are like hardware level changes, which doesn't have control with HTML5. So that support is getting built for HTML5, and currently we have third-party APIs or libraries which supports those functionality. And coming to mobile, we have 10% of browser share as of recent times. So current browsers like Chrome for Android devices and Safari for iPhone devices, they almost have upgraded to HTML5 and with the latest features provided by HTML5. And then these numbers are getting increased day by day, and this is just a snapshot of what it was, and the current and the future, it might change. These numbers will go up obviously, and we'll see more penetration towards HTML5 in web as well as mobile in the near future. So as I was mentioning about the business approach, let's say we have a product, we want to develop a product with certain client. So what we have to check before deciding with before deciding to go with HTML5 approach, we just need to check the customer's base, what kind of browsers they support, and what are the devices they are like targeting, so that we will come to know what all the features that we have to support and what all features are not supported in certain browsers. So once we list those supported features, we have to decide whether we can go for a HTML5 application or those has to be developed in native. So this is a basic approach, like to decide whether we go for a HTML5 or a native application. For native mobile application, there are many other cases where we have to consider, like the comparison is like performance can be drawback for HTML5 mobile applications. Also the look and feel, so we may not be able to provide a native look and feel for the application. So these are the basic drawbacks with the HTML5 device, but the advantages are like, yeah, it's a huge list. So in the business approach, when we take, we have to consider the casting of the application that we have chosen, as well as the technical challenges that we will be facing. So for that, we'll just see the browser compatibility. There are many other ways which we can see to check the browser compatibility. So let us see that there are open source websites where we can see those compatibilities listed. I have just taken this from one of the open source website. So this caniuse.com is a website where they have listed all the browser support with features. It's a very well documented website, and they have graphically shown what type of browsers are available with HTML5 support and what are the features supported in that particular browsers. Same is listed in the HTML5 readiness as well. And coming to the modernizer, this is a library where we can use in our application to check what all features are available. Like particular feature, we can check whether it is available with the browser that we are using or not. Those kind of checks can be done in the modernizer library. So once we have the browser compatibility done, and then the we have listed down the list of once we have listed down the list of features that we have to support, we have to separate out what features we can't support and how to approach to fix those issues, like those features. So once we have a considerable list where we can suggest that HTML5 can be used, we can go ahead and suggest HTML5 approach for the applications. And first and foremost, we'll see why to consider HTML5 on mobile. It's vastly used in the web currently, as from the date that Flash got stopped from the Adobe because of the drawbacks that it had. It had released its mobile version as well, and it was battery consuming, and that's the reason Flash got stopped as a project, and it's no more in the Android Play Store as well. So that's the reason HTML5 came into limelight, and it has a very huge set of feature list for the web as well as mobile. So as we have seen the advantages in the web, so same advantages are available in mobile as well, and same features which are working on mobile. So why not use HTML5 on mobile? And this is the reason why we will be using HTML5 on mobile. This is basically showing the list of devices shipments till 2016. So this is a rough skeleton of the estimation or the analysis that has been taken from IDC, and they are saying around 1.8 billion to 2,000 billion. 1.8 billion to 2 billion is the number of devices that will be shipped before 2016, which will be with the HTML5 support. So once we have our websites developed with HTML5 for desktops, it is just a matter of converting them or modifying them to mobile to make it work. And without creating your own application on mobile, you can just create your modified version of the website and use it on the devices, or you can release it to the market as well with a minimal interface creation, where you just give a web view and open their website. Coming to the HTML5 for mobile applications, this is the core of the discussion, where we will be seeing the native and HTML5. What will be the differences and what are the drawbacks in each of the approaches. So let's consider the device features. We have device features like camera, Bluetooth, and many other like email clients, which we can't directly use from HTML5. These are all native features, so it's very easy to develop a native application to portray the device features. Coming to HTML5, these features are not directly available, so we may need to use a different plugins for those features to develop. Let's say PhoneGap provides you with the plugins, or you can write your own plugins for using PhoneGap to access the device features. So this is a time-consuming process compared to the native, but it has its own advantages coming to the time to market basically. I'll come to that point later. And coming to the performance wise, obviously the native application will be on top now in terms of performance, because there is no intermediate moderator here. In the case of HTML5, there is a WebKit which interfaces with the application and the backend of HTML5. So native will be the fastest application considering compared to the HTML5. but nevertheless HTML5 has defined its own guidelines to make the application faster. So if we follow some patterns and guidelines given by the experts or HTML5 standards, application can be made faster on the mobile as well using HTML5. Coming to the look and feel part, as a user of a mobile device, so I'll be used to have the native controls in my applications. So I would not use the other applications which doesn't have a native look and feel. So that is the other disadvantage of HTML5. But there is a huge possibility that we can use third-party libraries like SenchaTouch or licensed versions of different third-party libraries to create a native look and feel UI using HTML5 as well within a short span of time compared to native development. And the basic advantage is like it runs on any platform. You just need to set the platform in PhoneGap and build it, and it will create the target file for you. So it's very integrated now in the PhoneGap to use it. It's not only PhoneGap, there are many other competitors for PhoneGap which can be used to create the packages, application packages for different platforms. And coming to programming language, we might get hardly less number of people for the native development. From the, let's say, Android or iOS, we'll have very less resources outside in the market, and who will be very costly to recruit as well. So whereas for the HTML5, there are web developers who are working on the desktops with minimal knowledge or minimal training. They can perform well onto the mobile applications as well by using those PhoneGap kind of platforms to create hybrid applications for mobile. So this is the basic difference between the native and HTML5 when we come to the mobile application perspective. Coming to the benefits of HTML5 in a mobile application. So first and foremost is casting. So you are writing the code for one platform and it's running on across different multiple platforms of mobile devices, which will be like achievable in 50% of cost compared to a native application development where we have to write multiple platforms, multiple applications. This is basically definitely a cost reduction in the companies when we use HTML5 for mobile applications, but we need to keep in mind all the technical challenges and keep a buffer to implement those features when we consider HTML5 for mobile applications. And also, as I mentioned, developer experience, we would find more resources for HTML5 or web development compared to a native mobile application developers. So HTML5 will come in handy when we choose the mobile application with HTML5, and the resources will be available huge number, and we can easily push them to do the mobile application development with a minimal training. Coming to maintenance, as it's the web technologies that we are using in the HTML5 mobile application development. Its code base is easy to maintain, and you can deploy it easily by hosting the code onto a server instead of releasing multiple releases to the app stores. You can deploy it onto your servers. So if you have any change in the application, you need not ask the user to install it. You just need to host your code onto the server, and the client side code will be deployed from the server side itself. So that will be very handy when we see maintenance as well as the ease of deployment part for a mobile application. So this will reduce the headache of maintaining the releases, multiple releases on the stores, and getting the approvals, waiting for the approvals for weeks together. And obviously the main is to time to market for the application. So in the same time you can deliver one native application, and using HTML5 you are delivering for 6 to 7 platforms which are supported by the third-party frameworks, like the platforms like PhoneGap. So you can target whatever platforms available in the market. So the support is there with the PhoneGap or any other framework now. So obviously the time to market will increase, and it will reach to the huge number of audience, and it's cost effective. So that's like interrelated, all are interrelated with each other. This was the short discussion about the HTML5 for web and mobile. Please post me any questions. If you have any questions, please post me. I'll clarify the same.
Thanks for the insightful presentation, Samdani. Let's quickly take up the questions now. Sorry, there was a bit of disturbance in between, technical snack. I have to request you to read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to your insights.
Sure, Anuradha.
Are you able to see the questions coming into you, Samdani?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the question posted by Vikas is, how much JavaScript is required for building the HTML5 applications? So this is basically a tricky question, because HTML5 is increasing its own validations in the tags. So otherwise, which the developer would have done all the validations for in the JavaScript. So slowly the JavaScript part of coding is very minimal when we are just creating a screen. We'll be using JavaScript and Ajax to write the service calls or server calls and get the data and populate it to the screens. And the next question is like, does HTML5 is supported by all types of browsers? Is asked by Mohsin. As I mentioned, right, some level of HTML5 is already supported by all the browsers, but not 100%. There are huge list of features which are there in HTML5 are not integrated in many of the browsers. So this is like, as I mentioned, each browser WebKit will implement or integrate those HTML5 features which we can use it. So it depends on the browser that you are choosing to develop your application or website. Yeah, Piyush is asking, can you name some of the common complex apps which have been developed using HTML5? So to name, I think hybrid applications, mobile applications that have been developed using HTML5. An example would be the Flipkart mobile application. They are using HTML5 and CSS3 JavaScript using hybrid mobile application packaging. So Suvankar Giri is asking about if a site is developed using HTML5, then still do I need to do browser fixing for Internet Explorer? It again depends on your browser and the support. So let's say if your application is targeted from multiple browsers, so then it depends on the WebKit. The support, some of the support might be there in one of the browser, but the same support might not be available in the other WebKit. So this is basically boiled down to a question like, we need to use some kind of media queries or validators for the browsers to make it working in all the browsers. So there are some flaws in the different browsers which might not be supported. So we have to find a workaround to do the same. Rakesh is asking like, is it possible to show a short intro on setting up the environment for PhoneGap? I don't have any demo created today, but I would revert you with a web link from Adobe where they have clearly documented how to set up the environment for PhoneGap. So after the webinar, I would be sharing the links with all you guys. And Shruti is asking like, if I know jQuery, JavaScript, CSS, CSS3, HTML, then can I say that I know HTML5? No, the direct question answer will be no, because HTML is released in different phases. HTML4 doesn't have support for many of the rich content delivery tags or APIs from HTML4 or HTML3. So HTML5 came up with rich content delivery using the web pages without using any plugins. So you need to have HTML5 hands-on experience to say you are a HTML5 developer, along with the jQuery, JavaScript, and CSS. CSS3, CSS level 3 is the CSS3. Basically, you have to know the latest development that has been included in CSS3 compared to CSS2. Vinod is asking like, I'm trying to develop Android application using HTML5. Can you give me a real world app example? Thank you. As I already given an example, right, on the Flipkart. Flipkart is the best example for the hybrid application development, and we have many other travel applications that has been developed using hybrid mobile application development, which is using HTML5. Arun is asking like, using HTML5 latest tags, can we develop responsive web design? And what are all the methods we need to follow? Basically, responsive web design is different altogether compared to the tags that are available in HTML5. So you may need to use the framework that is defined in that is developed using HTML5. It's not simply easy to use with the tags itself to create a responsive web design. You can use the frameworks like Bootstrap to develop responsive web design. It depends on how much responsive design you wanted to do, and depends on your requirement. There are many open source web design, responsive web design frameworks are available in the market. Hanuman is asking like, what should we prefer, HTML5 or PhoneGap in hybrid application development? It's a bit contradicting what Hanuman is asking. Like, I'll just clarify Hanuman saying that basically HTML5 is like a UI component on top of your PhoneGap. PhoneGap is used to package your hybrid application, which can be used to access device features. You can't use access the device features using HTML5, so you can use the device features using PhoneGap's APIs like location, camera, Bluetooth. Those APIs are available in PhoneGap to access those device features. If some features are not available in the APIs, PhoneGap APIs, you can always write plugins to access the device, those kind of device features which are not available in the PhoneGap APIs. So HTML5 is only for the UI development. Using HTML5 and CSS3, you will write the content of the UI, and you will use JavaScript for the backend logic to write a Ajax call and hit the server and get the data. Piyush is asking, can we develop complex apps which contain HTML5, each window containing multiple tabs and frames? It is absolutely possible. It all depends on how you design your layout, and you just need to make sure that you are not hitting the performance by writing a bulky code. You just need to follow standards and guidelines provided in the HTML5 to avoid the performance issues. I think Flipkart has a very good UI to name, and it's very complex UI as well. It's not that easy to that easy how it is looking like on your device. Balamurgi is asking like how much secure is HTML5 app when compared to native app development. There are certain cases like HTML5 we use local storage or session storage to store some local data which might be like identified when we run some tests like penetration tests or pen tests. So basically we have to be careful with the cache of HTML5 and also the local storage. So instead of storing the user details or some sensitive data like passwords into the local storage, I would suggest you to use some kind of encryption algorithm before storing it to local storage, or you can use a local database as well using SQLite to store your content. By encrypting and decrypting, you can use those sensitive data. And coming to cache, there are multiple ways where you can set the cache disabled so that your response from the server is not cached and stored on the cache available on the device. Rakesh is asking like what is the difference between PhoneGap and Cordova? Both are same. It's just renamed. Cordova is a renamed version of PhoneGap itself. After Adobe acquired the development of PhoneGap, they have renamed it to Cordova. Trupti is asking what skills required for front-end development. So as we have already mentioned, there are different set of tools required for front-end development. Coming to UI, as I mentioned, HTML5 and CSS3 has to be used, and JavaScript, some kind of a scripting with Ajax has to be used for the backend logic. And then only it's a complete application. It can be called a complete application or a front-end developer, basically. Ravikant is asking what is the SVG and when to use it. Basically, SVG is a scalable vector graphic where this is basically used for some kind of icons for the application, where it will automatically resize according to the container defined for those application icons. These are mainly used for the icons and some kind of a background images that we create for the applications, which would scale according to the container defined for that. Any more questions coming in? I think I have answered almost all of them.
There are many questions coming in, Samdani. I'm
Okay.
hoping that you are able to see them.
Oh yeah, it's coming on the bottom side. Satyajit is asking about which is better in respective of use of HTML5 and any design framework like Twitter Bootstrap. So basically it depends on what is your requirement. HTML5 will provide you with the tags for developing your UI, and you have to write media queries in the CSS part to make it responsive. The same is provided by Twitter Bootstrap. So instead of writing your own uh, uh, media queries for the UI, you can use Bootstrap framework, which is like a grid level framework. Being an HTML5 developer, do we need to write Ajax as well? Vikas is asking, and I think because the only difference is like it depends on your the data, how you populate the data. If your application is hitting the server and getting the data from the server, you can write the Ajax calls to get the query to get the data from the backend. It can be a Ajax call, any network call that you make to get the data. So HTML5 will provide you only the UI development tools. Neil is asking an interesting question. Based on your experience, what weighs better, HTML5 heavy applications or browser compatibility, sacrificing UI design? I think it's a very interesting question. I think the answer would be like, when your application is light, I would suggest to go with HTML5. If your application is heavy, it is better to use the native development. The only reason is like the performance will be hit in the heavy application when you are using some graphics into the application. So if the graphic is limited to 1 or 2 pages, it's fine. But when you are using more graphics into your application to create a fancy UI and functionality, and if you want a native look and feel using HTML5, it is better to go for native. But that would be targeting only a certain platform. If you are targeting multiple platforms, then you can choose HTML5 and compromise on some native look and feel, and you are good to go, I think, with the HTML5 if you are considering about time to market and cost. Page well. Javed is asking, like, do you planning to give a development overview kind of a session as well? So I think I plan a development session later in a month or so, so you can join that time. So we would give a demo, and as another user has requested, I'll give a demo of PhoneGap setup, and as well as the give a mobile application development experience to all the audience. How to write the HTML5 using the MVC pattern and how it is interacting with the MVC pattern that you have created, and then the deployment of those application to the device. So I would plan to give a demo. Srijit is asking, can I handle a e-commerce website using HTML5? For example, Flipkart. How can they manage a huge audience website in mobile devices? So basically, the UI is only about the shopping experience, and the question that you are asking about a huge database which is maintained at some cloud like Amazon cloud or some server, so which is nothing to do with the mobile device. You will just hit the server, get the details for that user, and show his cart or the shopping articles. So that is only the database is hosted at the server end, which might not be on the mobile device. Only for some offline caching or offline support, you may need to have a local database. But in other ways, using a remote database, it's very easy to create an application like Flipkart. Katresan Ramasamy is asking, is any other ways to access mobile features like camera, gallery, contacts from HTML5 application? So basically, HTML5 doesn't provide a direct interface with for the device features. Apart from that, they are just started including the location details, where it uses the device location enablement, and it will locate you the current location of the user. So there are limited features that are available as of now, but a full list of availability is not there in the HTML5. So we have to use a third-party framework like PhoneGap to achieve the native features or using native features in the mobile applications. Do we have a common app store where we post our HTML5 app for all platforms? Javed, the applications are hosted by each platform, so there is no common portal. So if you have to upload your application to iPhone App Store, so you have to get it signed. There are some guidelines to be followed, so it has to pass those guidelines, and you can submit your application to the App Store. The same guidelines are there for each of the platforms. Like Android follows their own standards or guidelines to accept an application on their App Store or the Play Store. So there is no common App Store for the mobile applications using HTML5. It has to be signed and uploaded to the App Store's respective platforms. Are there any free softwares to check for cross-browser compatibility of a website or web application? Vaibhav is asking this. I think, as I already mentioned, there are libraries like Modernizer which will let you know a particular feature available from the particular browser, HTML5 feature, whether it is available in that particular browser WebKit or not. You can check that through the Modernizer library, There are many other libraries which you can use. Those are open source. So as I mentioned in the presentation, you can use Modernizer library to check the same.
Hello Samdani, are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes, so I was saying due to time constraint, if you can take few of the questions and then some of the session for today, you can do it now.
Okay, fine. I'm just going through the questions. Let me see if there are any interesting questions. I think Mantaka Mishra is asking like, what do you suggest in the leveraging capability of HTML5 when integrating with different OOJs like AngularJS and Backbone.js? So when we consider any AngularJS and Backbone.js are like basically for the MVC pattern or to create some templating in your application, you use AngularJS or Backbone.js. So some of those frameworks will provide you out of the box event triggering, where Backbone.js doesn't create you out of the box event triggering. So it depends on your requirement whether to go for AngularJS or Backbone.js. The only difference is AngularJS is more advanced compared to Backbone.js. Backbone.js will give you only the MVC pattern in your application, but AngularJS is far ahead. Like for templating purpose, you can use the same AngularJS and MVC pattern can be followed, and also the out-of-the-box event triggering is like data binding is allowed in AngularJS. So you need not listen to all the key events when there is any change on the UI side. So that is the main difference. So it all boils down to your requirement to use AngularJS or Backbone.js, but the capability of HTML5 would be same. You choose whatever framework you wanted to use.
You can sum up the session for today, Samdani.
Yeah. I would like to thank you all for joining the session, and it was my pleasure to give a session in front of everyone. Like there is a huge audience base joined for the session, and we're very happy. And I hope I have given have answered almost all the questions. If you have any questions, you can write direct to me in the webinar portal. I think Anuradha will be sharing some contact emails so that you can be in touch with me. Thank you very much for your time.
And I'm really thankful to our guest speaker today for conducting this wonderful webinar. It was indeed a great session. So the unanswered questions I would share with you offline through email, so you can answer them. And I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Samdani, for taking the time out and having us. I hope you have a great evening ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.